Congressman Andy Kim thought he'd have an uphill battle for the Democratic Senate nomination until New Jersey First Lady Tammy Murphy suddenly dropped out. Now the race looks a whole lot easier. But you know, you entered the race on a whim, and then all of a sudden you had to face Tammy Murphy. How did that feel, and did that make you think maybe I should quit, maybe I should drop out?
Well, I will say, I jumped into this Senate race. I did not plan to run for Senate. It was not something I was expecting to do. I jumped in only 24 hours after the indictment of Senator Menendez. I remember I couldn't go to sleep that night. I just felt like I had to do something. And you
decided to do it because you felt what?
I felt like New Jersey deserved the choice. You know, the people of New Jersey deserved a choice, and I was really worried that, he would survive this in the same way that he survived the last indictment, and, that we wouldn't have the kind of accountability that was necessary. So I took a chance. I put my whole career in the line. I was not able to run for re-election in the House. But you're right. Once I got word that the First Lady, Tammy Murphy, was going to jump in, I mean, that is the most powerful political family in the state of New Jersey. And it was very intimidating. And I had a number of party leaders tell me, they called me up and tell me that I should drop out and run for re-election in the House of Representatives. But
why didn't you do that? That was a safe choice.
Look, I think I just, what I told one of them in the call is I said, I don't think I could look my two little boys in the eye. Like, I was 6-year-old and 8-year-old, two little boys. I don't think I could look them in the eye if I was stepping down, to pave the way for someone else who I thought, I could do this job. Like, I think I am the stronger candidate. I think I am the person with more experience that can help serve our state. I don't want to step aside just because, I think someone else is, more connected and more powerful politically than I am.
So when she dropped out, how did you feel? Surprised, elated?
Yeah, well,
I got a chance? What?
It was a surprise. I'll be honest with you. I still haven't fully processed it.
You didn't think it was coming?
I did not expect it to come. I was ready to fight this all the way to 8 p.m. on June 4th. And look, I'm going to still press hard. I only know one speed, so I'm going to continue to press hard.
You also still have a primary.
Yes, exactly. There are other competitors in the race, so I want to make sure that I'm engaging. And look, I want to meet as many voters as possible. But what I will say, though, is that, yes, I'm still kind of processing all the news over the last few days. I have to say, it is a testament to the unbelievable energy from the people, the grassroots, whereas the political elites, even my congressional colleagues in Congress, supported the First Lady over me. It was very lonely for a while. I thought, I felt like I was kind of radioactive. People in politics in New Jersey didn't want to be seen in public with me.
But now things have changed.
Because of the people. I mean, we started doing these events in houses and restaurants and bars all over the state of New Jersey. And I wasn't sure who, if anyone was going to show up, but all of a sudden we started having packed houses and people showing up, people saying like they want to hear what I have to bring to the table. And that's when I realized that there's something amazing happening in New Jersey. Something was catching fire.
But Bob Menendez still looms large over this race, and his threat to run as an independent could prove a problem.
It could prove a problem.
And, it could divide the Democratic vote. It
could, and that's why I feel like I would be the strongest candidate to go up against, potentially him as well as a Republican candidate. I am, of the candidates left in the Senate race, I am the only one who has run and won an election before. I won 3 previous races.
And in a seat that was Republican before.
Correct. Yeah, I was a Democrat that twice won a district that Trump won twice. In the year 2020. I was one of only 7 Democrats in the entire nation that won a district Trump won. So it shows that, I can outperform. I outperformed Joe Biden by 8 points in 2020 to win this district. So the strength of my ability to outperform partisanship, to build a coalition of independent voters, even some Republicans, I think it puts me in a strong place to not only beat a Republican, but overcome any type of challenge from a third party, whether that be someone with the last name Menendez or not.
So let me ask you this question. You're still a congressman. I wonder how you feel about a bill introduced by Mikey Sherrill, a fellow congresswoman from New Jersey, that would limit Bob Menendez's access to classified information. Is that something that you would support, you would vote for? You will have to vote on it if it comes to the floor.
Yeah, look, I still need to read through it, but you know, from my understanding of it, it does sound like something that I would support. You know, I worked in national security prior to my time in Congress. I've had a security clearance for this country for over half of my life. I understand what it means to have to deal with classified information. I respect it. It's important. Lives are on the line about this, and we need to be careful. And certainly,
he was chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee for a long time until he got indicted.
Yeah, but you know, when he got indicted, the charges are about potential cases where one of the charges is acting as a foreign agent. You know, so yes, he was, you know, the most powerful person on Capitol Hill for foreign policy, but there are concerns that he was using that power for purposes that weren't serving our national interests, was instead serving his personal interests. So that's alarming. But look, I mean, you know, that's also something that could potentially apply to former President Donald Trump and others. Like, you know, I do think we need to take a look at how it is that we divulge and share the most sensitive and important information that our country safeguards.
Well, since this bill basically says that if you've been indicted on criminal charges, not convicted but indicted, you should have be restricted to your access to classified information, it would apply to Donald Trump. So do you think that because of that, it won't get support from Republicans in the House and that its fate is difficult? Or do you think some Republicans and Democrats would make it pass?
I think there's a good chance that this gets politicized, you know, I'd have to kind of think through it some more. But I mean, that would be a shame if it is, because, you know, as I said, I used to work at the State Department, the Pentagon, the White House National Security Council. We used to have a saying that, you know, the last thing that you want in the Situation Room is partisan politics. You know, like, we should not be making decisions about our national security, thinking about elections, thinking about our partisan politics. You know, that is a place where we have to safeguard what it means to be American and what our national interests are. So that would be a real shame if that happened.
So the big issue, one of the biggest issues facing the country today is what's going on in the Middle East, and the call or the demand by some that there should be a ceasefire in Gaza. I wonder where you stand on that. Yeah,
look, I mean, you know, this is one of the most difficult conflicts I've ever seen in my life, and I say that as someone who's worked in diplomacy in the Middle East and elsewhere. You know, it is a situation where we have to think about how do we lift up security for everybody there. I do believe at this point there needs to be an end to this war, an end to this conflict. We need to be able to get those hostages out of there. You know, I made a promise to many of the families of the hostages that I met. We need to get them out of there. Right now, we're seeing a humanitarian catastrophe unlike anything I've seen in my life. I worked at the U.S. Agency for International Development. There's an incoming famine here right now that would be devastating. We would see a death toll well beyond what we've seen right now. So I believe we need to be able to bring this violence to a close. We need to make sure that it's immediate, that it's permanent, that, you know, that we have that bilateral ceasefire that's able to push this forward and allow for the hostages to get out and to surge humanitarian support getting in to save as many lives as possible.
How did you feel about what Chuck Schumer said?
About Netanyahu and
you know,
broadly?
Basically what he says is not only ceasefire, but there needs to be a new election to replace Netanyahu.
Well, look, you know, I certainly have my concerns about some of the policies that Netanyahu has been pushing forward. I think that, you know, the United States and Israel continues to have, you know, a partnership that needs to be able to endure just the current leadership that's there. But, you know, there are a lot of concerns that I have. You know, it's up to the Israelis in terms of when and how they conduct their elections. But, you know, certainly I am frustrated by some of what I've seen, and especially in terms of the challenges with getting humanitarian assistance in and other policies there. And I'm hopeful that we can have this diplomatic breakthrough right now that Secretary Blinken and others are pushing on. I really do hope that we can find a way. You know, the top priority I keep hearing from everyone, whether Israeli officials that I talk to or Jewish American families here in New Jersey, New York area, is get the hostages out. You know, let's try to make sure we prioritize that, try to bring this to a close.
Well, Congressman, we're going to have to leave it right there for now, but our conversation continues right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. We're back with a bonus conversation you'll only see here on CBS News New York. Now, usually in this section, we like to ask some questions about, give our viewers more of a sense of who you are. But I want to ask you about a decision that happened on Friday that had to do with the county line and your decision to buck politics as usual in New Jersey and to try to strike a blow for anti-corruption. Tell me about it.
Yes, in New Jersey, our elections are done in a way that no other state does. 49 other states use a kind of ballot called an office block ballot. In New Jersey, the ballot is designed in a way such that party leaders are able to give preferential placement on the ballot.
The line.
It's called the line, and they give preferential placement on the ballot for their endorsed candidate. I just think that's unfair. You know, you should not be able to put the thumb on the scale of our democracy for people who are well-connected, well-off. So I decided to file a lawsuit in federal court, and we just found out that we were successful in that lawsuit, and I'm just really excited because it's not just about my race. It's not just about 2024. It's about this broken system that we've had in New Jersey that has had so much impacts in affecting our democracy and hurting the ability for the voters to be in the driver's seat of their democracy. So I'm excited about what is to come in my state.
I just wondered if you thought that taking it on might be a political liability because the county leaders would take it out on you later on in some way. And did that stop you, or did that make you just feel like I got to do it because it's the right thing to do?
It was nerve-wracking. I'll be honest. It was one of the hardest decisions that I made because, you know, I'm running for the U.S. Senate. At that time, I was running against the First Lady, Tammy Murphy, the wife of the sitting governor, the most powerful family in the state. And you're right, like, if I do this and if I'm not successful, it could ostracize me, excommunicate me from politics in New Jersey. But it felt like, you know, the way my wife and I talked about it is we said, this is bigger than us. You know, this is a chance where we can make an impact, again, not just for us, but something that can help our entire state. And so we took a chance. And I'll be honest, like, this whole race for Senate that I've done has been about taking chances and taking some big risks, whether the jumping in the first place and within 24 hours, staying in even after the most powerful family is getting involved, and now filing a federal lawsuit. It is a very improbable path that I've gotten to where I am now, but I'm proud of what we've accomplished.
Well, it seems like the stars are aligning for you, but one of the things I think people in the general viewership area don't know is that you also have a suit in the Smithsonian Museum. Tell me about that.
Yes. So on
suit.
Yeah, I was
J.Crew.
J.Crew. Yes, on January 6th, I was at the Capitol compound, and of course we all know what horrible actions unfolded that day. After the riot and it was quelled, I was walking through the Capitol, and when I got to the rotunda, which I believe to be the most beautiful building in America, I was just taken by how it was just heartbroken by how much destruction and trash and debris was there. So I ended up cleaning it up. And a photographer happened to be there, took a picture of me, and the photograph went viral. And the Smithsonian contacted me shortly thereafter asking if they could have the suit as sort of a part of the story of January 6th. And I remember telling them, like, it's just an off-the-rack J.Crew suit that I got, half off during the holiday sales. But now it's in the collection of the Smithsonian Museum of American History.
How does that make you feel?
Again, it's a lot to process. What I did, I'll be honest with you, what I did was not heroic. It was ordinary. I hope it's what any American would have done in that circumstance. But I do understand that given the circumstances of that day, it was something that hopefully helped remind people that there still are public servants out there, that decency matters, character matters at a time when so much seems to be going off the rails in our country.
So we want to let viewers get an idea of who Andy Kim really is. So maybe you could tell me, do you have any hobbies?
So I would say my main thing is I'm a musician. I started playing, piano and cello my parents always used to say that music was my first alphabet, the scales. I learned my scales before I really understood my ABCs. So
how did you get into that? I mean, your parents?
My parents definitely, they definitely wanted me to do music. Neither of them did music, so I think they thought it'd be good for me to do. But I just took to it. I love the sound of the cello. I just think it's such a beautiful, soothing sound. I loved playing it. And like when I was young, like, I loved the idea that like when I was 7 or 8 years old that I was playing cello better than most adults in the world. It was a way for me to feel confidence in myself as a child. So now I play a lot of guitar, a lot of cello, a lot of other instruments.
You have a favorite piece?
Well, the Dvorak Cello Concerto is my favorite piece. It was what I heard Yo-Yo Ma play when I was a little kid, and I always aspired to learn and play it. And when I got to actually learn it and play it, I felt like, this is such
It speaks to you.
Yeah, it really was wonderful. And now I'm watching my 2 little boys learning to play music, and I love to just see them be able to just be creative and to just be able to grow in this way.
Do you have any pet peeves?
My pet peeve is being late. I can't stand being late to things. I don't really know exactly how it came about, but I just get very nervous when I'm running late to things, so I try to keep as punctual as possible.
So what's the last thing that your kids did that made you smile?
Well, this morning, before I said goodbye to them, before I started my work day, we were just tossing around the football in the front yard, and it was just it's really awesome to see the 2. I mean, they're 2 boys. They roughhouse and they get in trouble with each other. But today they were arguing with each other. And what I found really cute is when one of them was angry at the other, they looked at each other and they said, "I'm not going to vote for you." And I just thought that was funny that like somehow like my work is something that's now infusing into their lives. So they think that a good insult to each other as kids is like, "I'm not going to vote for you," because they just see how much important that is for my work. So I thought that was really cute.
Now?
6 years old and 8 years old. So a 1st grader and a 3rd grader.
So, and they know about voting. Did they?
Yeah.
Do they go with you? Do they help you campaign?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been in politics as long as they've basically been alive. I got into politics because of them. I see this crazy world that we're in, and I just said, like, I don't want my kids to grow up in a broken America. So I stepped up, and so yes, they come to a lot of these events together with me. Unfortunately, I miss a lot of their lives. I'm often away from them, so I bring them when I can. But I love to see them kind of starting to understand. They're at the age where they're starting to understand what I do. They didn't quite understand it when they were younger, but I think they're, I hope that when they get older that they'll be proud of what I've done here.
Is there a mantra or a philosophy that guides your life decisions?
Yes, with my kids, I try to phrase it as that golden rule of treat others how you want to be treated, and that's certainly something that is very fundamental to our family. But the other thing I'll say is, like, especially in the politics I practice, there's one word I associate with the politics I practice. It's humility. I don't know all the answers. I know people often look to politicians and say, like, you got to solve all my problems, and politicians often say, I have a 10-point plan for everything. Look, like, we don't. Things are complicated. They're challenging. But it's okay to say that things are difficult. And actually, that allows us to bring others in to help us try to solve these problems. I hear too much of the politics of hubris down in D.C., too many people saying that, I can fix it all. And I just think that's hubris, that's arrogance. What we need is a lot more humility, a lot more public service. Recognizing that we serve the people. We are not CEOs of the country. We actually, what I always say at every town hall is, whether you voted for me or not, you're my boss. And my job is to serve you to the best of my ability.
Andy Kim, Congressman, Democratic candidate for Senate, thank you so much for being with me today. And thank you at home for joining me as well.